Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fake Momentum Podcast, where college football fans come to argue. Want to welcome everyone back for another season of the greatest sport ever created, college football. For those that don't know, Fake Momentum is a fan debate show. Every week during the college football season, we bring on Noles, Canes, and Gator fans to debate where the programs are, where they're headed, and who has the upper hand. None of us work in sports media, and that's the whole point of the show. This is about the fans who are passionate about their school and have absolutely no issue taking a shot at their rival school. We'll post a show every Sunday afternoon, the day after every college football Saturday during the season, to react to what happened, argue about what it means, and look ahead to what's next. We're all counting down the days until the season starts. But before we get into today's debate, I want to introduce our panel for today. We have two Canes and two Noles joining us. The two Miami panelists, who are also two graduates of the University of Miami, are Rolly and Derek. Boys, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Thank you, Christian.
And we have two FSU panelists who are also graduates of the Florida State University, Jordan and Alec. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be back.
Go Noles, baby.
And my name is Christian. I'll be moderating today's debate. So, boys, let's get into it. For our first topic, there's a lot of hype about the Miami Hurricanes. I guess that's an understatement. Going into the 2026 season, and understandably so, right? It's year 5 for Mario. He's coming off his best season, a 13-3 season, playoff run, national title game appearance, and Miami's best season in about a quarter century since 2002. So, Rolly, I want to start with you. We spoke on the phone yesterday, and you're extremely high on Miami this year. You originally predicted 12-0, and then you backtracked a little bit and changed it to 11-1. You also predicted that Miami wins their first ever ACC championship trophy, and that you predicted that Miami will go on to win the national title this season. And you genuinely believe that. It's not just a homer take. You genuinely believe Miami will actually be significantly in the hunt to win the national title and take home the trophy. So I want to challenge you for a second, Rolly, because yes, Miami is coming off the national title game appearance, and yes, Miami has a ton of talent returning. Yes, Mensa is an elite proven quarterback, but I want to challenge you in that Miami lost a ton of proven production from last year. More than half of the starting lineup is being replaced. 12 of 22 starters are gone. Both starting defensive ends gone in Mesidor and Rex. And 4 starters on the offensive line.
Did you say Rex? Wait. Put some respect on that name, please. What was his name again?
So, what's his name again? Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain, I'm sorry.
Hall of Famer. And the Dolphins are going to see as well.
T-Rex.
All right, continue, Christian.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was the NFL scouts that said he had short arms. But anyways,
All right.
so anyways, Miami lost 4 starters on the offensive line: Francis, Bell, Cooper, and Brockemeyer. So the offensive line was the identity of that team last year, right? When things got tough in games, Miami could rely on that offensive line to run it up the A-gap with Mark Fletcher, or on that right side behind Francis when they really needed to in short yardage situations. And that helped them survive a lot of those tight games, especially late in the year. So when you're predicting that this season is going to be better than last year, you're predicting 11-1 and a national title. My question is to you, Rolly, what makes you so confident Miami can lose that much proven production and experience, especially in the trenches, and not take a step back, but instead be just as good or even better than the team that went to the Natty last year?
Well, Christian, my first response is that it was always a 5-year plan. Since Mario walked into that building at the Hecht Athletic Center 4 years ago, it was always year 5 is going to be the year. He's built that over the years with recruiting class, building over and over and over. Right now, we have the number 2 recruiting class projected to come in next year. O-line, I told you this yesterday, and it is the truth. we have the best O-line coach in the country in Alex Mirabal, hailing from Christopher Columbus High School, as well as the head coach in Mario Cristobal, also an O-lineman. I'm not worried about the O-line developing and getting better throughout the year. I do think naturally there's going to be a little bit of step back on the O-line to start the year, just because obviously, as you said, we're losing 4 starters on the O-line. It takes time for an O-line to mesh, reps to mesh, but the way the schedule plays out, I do think we'll be ready by that time. The Week 10 game against Notre Dame comes around, that O-line will be pretty meshed. Even right now, just things coming out of camp, I don't really think they have a solid 5 right now to start. But I do think as the year progresses, we will mesh and be just fine. D-line, I'm not as worried. I understand how you disrespect his name, Ruben Bain, as T-Rex. Okay, short arms, 3 sacks and his little scrimmage against his first NFL team last week. We'll see on Saturday when he plays his first preseason game. We'll see how the Miami Dolphins look drafting Caden goddamn Proctor, the donut eater himself, over Ruben Bain, who will be a solidified Hall of Famer. I will call that right now on this podcast. August 19, 2026, Ruben Bain will be a Hall of Famer. I promise you. I have no problem saying that. Okay, so put a little bit of respect on his name, please. Please.
Hey,
but the D-line will be
it
just
wasn't
fine.
me that brought up the Rex nickname.
Yeah.
That was actually Derek.
We understand.
No, it was Derek. Derek, that was Derek's nickname. So I was just going with what Derek said. That's what he called him.
Feeling the fire.
Let's
Dude,
wait
fire.
until he has his first career sack before we anoint the guy, please.
So getting
I'm that
back to this
confident in the
Miami
guy.
team. Getting back to this
Okay.
Miami team.
D-line, I'm not worried about at all.
Look,
with
they
the
bring in
trenches.
Damon Wilson.
9 sacks last year as well.
Messidor had an amazing year. Ruben Bain had an amazing year. Is the thought that you bring this guy in and you don't miss a beat? Because that was also the identity of that defense last year.
No, I think it'll look a little different. I don't think necessarily it'll take a step back, be worse. I think it'll look a little different. I think the power of our D-line this year will actually be from the interior, with 2 returning starters and Justin Scott and Moden coming back. And I just think it'll look different, but I do not think we take a step back as far as record, as far as production. There's a lot of stuff coming back from that team as well. You haven't mentioned Malachi, you haven't mentioned Mark, you haven't mentioned obviously Mensa, the production coming back. I think you guys will admit, as Carson Beck haters, that Darian Mensa is kind of a step up in what the offense can do and unleash. So I do think we'll have a positive outlook on the year, and I do think at the end of the day we will be raising that trophy at the end of the year.
So what do you think is the floor for Miami this year? Like, what would be the worst case scenario season for Miami this year?
Regular season 10-2, not making the ACC championship, maybe being left out of the playoff, depending on how the rest of the outlook of college football looks at a 10-2 record from an ACC team. I don't think the media is going to look at us the same way as they did last year or the year prior to us being one of those teams looking out. I think they'll take into perspective that Miami was in the national championship last year and is bringing a lot of production, and one of those teams that could make a run either way at a 10-2 record. I wouldn't say it's national title or bust necessarily, but coming off that performance last year, coming off that run, I mean, that's what I'm kind of looking for as a fan, at least being in the game. But I truly believe that, we need to win it this year. It was always a 5-year plan, and I think this is the year to do it.
And before we move on to Alec, I want to get Alec's take. One last question for you, Rolly. Were you surprised that Mario did not go out and land a transfer on the offensive line? They went out and made a lot of big moves in the portal. I was kind of surprised that they didn't go out, and I know they signed the #1 offensive lineman in the country last year coming out of high school, but he's a true freshman. Was that a surprise to you? And do you, with it being 4 new starters on the offensive line, I looked it up. It's only been 3 starts for those 4 new starters. I know Pancake is one of the starters. I know he's been rotating in a lot, but he only has one career start. McCoy is the guy that has a lot of starting experience on that offensive line, but Pancake, he's only started 1 game in his career. He has played well when he's come in as a reserve, but were you surprised they didn't go out and land a transfer on the O-line? And do you think they're going to be able to move people like they moved people last year?
I think it's something that we're going to have to see progress throughout the year as far as moving. As far as the run game, I do agree with that. Like, that's something that takes chemistry throughout the year building and the same five guys playing a lot of reps together. So I think the run game is going to be a naturally progressing thing, but I do trust in the development of Alex Mirabal and Mario Cristobal on the offensive line. And as far as the transfer, that's a good question, Christian, honestly. I think the only position that I really would see them always looking forward transfer is center. I think this year, we're on the benefit of having Ryan Rodriguez slotted as pretty much the only starter right now, as the center, as a fifth-year guy, a projected starter last year. We have SJ Alafatuli, like, can't come in as a center. Doesn't seem like he's ready to be snapping the ball consistently, and maybe he'll never progress to a center. It's looking more like he's going to be slotted at guard this year, as a rotational role. But I do think that they just had their guy projected to be in the center. And I do think they took their swings, but if they can't get one of the big top guys for the left tackle spot or right tackle spot, I think they trust their development and they trust their evaluations out of the high school ranks.
Gotcha. Okay. So I want to move to Alec. Alec, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. So you are on the opposite end of the spectrum from Rolly when it comes to your outlook on the Miami Hurricanes. You have the Hurricanes. You're predicting the Hurricanes will go 9-3, not win the ACC, and you have Mario failing to make the college football playoff this season. So I want to challenge you, Alec, on this because this is a program that just made a run to the national title game last year. It is a program that has the most expensive roster in the ACC and probably a top 5 most expensive roster in the country. And they have the most talented roster in the ACC. So what do you see that Rolly doesn't, and why do you believe this Miami team takes that big of a step backwards this season from playing in the Natty last year to going 9-3 and failing to make the playoffs this year?
Well, there's a handful of reasons. It's to be honest, it's just a gut feeling. And the reason being is that I consider myself to be a history buff, a little bit of a history buff, and looking back on historic runs that teams have made, rarely, if ever, are they able to replicate that. Most teams get that one shot where they have that natty run, and whether or not they win that national championship, it's never a guarantee that they're going to be able to go back and win it again. You look back a couple years ago when TCU went to the Natty and played Georgia. They lost that game. They had a great team, great quarterback. Everything was set up. They had to replace a lot of players. The following year, they lost to Colorado in week 1, Coach Prime. Last year, 2 years ago, Notre Dame went to the national championship, and they ended up not even making the playoff this year. So it's never a guarantee that a team's going to go back to that spot. In my opinion, and Rolly and Derek and a lot of my other Miami friends, I've heard me say this, the run that Miami had last year looked like it was the run, and they had the best team that we had seen in years able to make that run on both ends. You had guys who were recruited by Mario that came in as freshmen when the team were bad. They worked their way up over a period of 4 years and were able to capitalize, grow together, have that chemistry, and go on and do something special with that run. Now you have a new batch of guys. And yes, Rolly mentioned that they have a great recruiting class for 2027. Unfortunately, none of those players are going to be playing this year. So the God's honest truth is when you look back at what Mario Cristobal has done at his 4 years at Miami, he hasn't gone a season without losing 3 games. So whether it be the first year, 5-7, 7-5, they went.
What was their record last year with the 3 losses? What was the wins on the other side?
3-loss season.
They played 4 extra games. That comes into
however you want to cut
argument.
it. If we're talking about,
yeah.
we talk about my FSU's 13-0 season, where some people don't like to acknowledge that we went 13-0.
No, that they were snubbed.
They
right?
say we went 13-1. That wasn't an undefeated season.
No.
Well, if we're going to be
What
counting
happened
these
against
postseason
Georgia?
losses, then we have to count the game where Cam Ward quit on the team against Iowa State, and they went on to lose that game. And then you have to look to the following year where they went 10-2 and lost their bowl game. And then last year, obviously, they ended up with 3 losses. So for me, Mario's going to give you those 2 losses that he shouldn't have. And I think that they play Notre Dame at the end of the season. That's going to be a revenge game at their house where it's going to be freezing cold. And I just predict that they're going to end up falling short in that game as well. So that's why I ended up at 9-3.
Derek, I want to go to you. You have Miami going 11-1, winning their first ever ACC title and winning the national title as well. We sent a poll out to 12 of the panelists that come on this show, and you and Rolly were the only 2 out of the 12 to predict Miami will win the national title this year. So I want to ask you, Derek, how confident are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that this Miami team will make another deep playoff run and be back in that national title hunt this season?
I'm pretty confident in it. I would say I'd put anywhere between like an 8 and a 9. Reason being is if you just look at the team on paper, like it's arguably one of the most complete teams we've had from top to bottom, at least in the starting 22. When you start looking at the issues that Miami has as a team, you kind of start looking at those same issues that all those top teams have. It's injury luck, the depth. God forbid Mensa gets hurt, what happens? Like you look at Ohio State, you look at Notre Dame, you look at all these Georgia, all these teams. It's like as long as the quarterback's healthy, they should be in it at the end. So we're kind of at the point now where Mario has built this through the transfer portal, through recruiting, through development, to a point where the team is complete. And the only issue is just health. So assuming everything is healthy, everyone is healthy throughout the whole season, I don't see a reason why. Honestly, I think we should go undefeated personally, but I also understand that going undefeated is extremely, extremely difficult. It's not common at all. So, to just rein it back a tiny bit, there's going to be a loss somewhere. It happens. These are children. These are adults who are imperfect. Like injuries happen, things happen. So I'm sure there'll be that loss somewhere there. If you ask me which game it is, I couldn't find one for you personally. But there probably will be one. But I'm fairly confident with what we built year 5, the culture we've built. We should be in line for a repeat run and hopefully, take it home this time.
What's your? It sounds like you're more likely that they go 12-0 than 10-2. So my question is, what is your floor for this team? Like worst case scenario, is it like Rolly 10-2?
Yeah, same thing. Pretty much 10-2. Let's say lose to Clemson and another random team on the schedule we shouldn't lose to, like a Wake Forest on a Friday night, or maybe even Stanford to start off the year, or maybe even whoever else we play this year. It's not FSU. Pretty much any of those teams being that second loss. But in all reality, in all seriousness,
you haven't mentioned Notre Dame at all. You're not worried about Notre Dame.
I'm talking about in terms of the ACC. Like get those 2 ACC. I think we're going to beat Notre Dame. I'm actually not super worried about them. I think Freeman is not that good of a coach, and he proved last year that he has no culture when he basically told his players they can quit to end the year. So I think a team like Miami with the physicality, they're going to punch him right in the mouth again, and it's going to be a bloodbath, just like last year. At the end they kind of made a little close with a crazy broken play, but I was there. It was never in question. They had a fluke play at the end with the tight end running loose.
DJ Carr's first game ever in college, and you guys beat him by 3 at home.
They didn't have a chance. So I can basically Flores losing 2 ACC games, missing the ACC because let's say Clemson runs the table, then we got the tiebreaker with another team and all that weird ACC rules, and then essentially being that 13th, 14th, 15th seed and getting left out.
Jordan, I want to go to you. You have Miami going 10-2. So better than Alec, but worse than Rolly and Derek. But you have Miami not making the playoffs. So sorry. You don't you do. I don't know why that made me laugh. So you don't see this Miami team making a deep playoff run, and you generally don't believe this Miami team is capable of winning a national title. So what do you think holds Miami back from making the playoffs this year? And what blind spots do you think Rolly and Derek have in their thought process about genuinely believing that this Miami team has a good chance of being in the national title hunt this season?
I think one of the biggest, potential blind spots that I think the Miami fan base may have right now as a whole is maybe taking for granted how talented that team was last year. Like Alec harped on, they had really like early on in the season. I think a lot of people around the country acknowledge Miami as one of those teams that everybody is afraid of. They had all the tools and specifically game breakers like Bain and a game changer on offense in Maui Noah that's been there in the system for a couple of years. Those two among the, many other guys that went to the league, props to the Canes for putting those guys in the league, but they're not there anymore. And the assumption that, it's just automatic that, okay, because a guy has a high star ranking or because of a transfer or whatnot, just assuming that it's plug and play is, I think it's diminishing how great those guys were last year. And I think that's a real blind spot that the Canes fans have right now.
So what do you think when you look at the team? Is it the offensive line that's going to be the big thing that is a difference for the reason why they take a step back?
I mean, it's not a step. They went 10-2 last year, so it's not really a step back. The only difference is this schedule is really soft, and let's call it a spade a spade. That Notre Dame game, if the Canes don't win that game, then do they have any quality win on their schedule? We'll see how it shakes out by the end of the year. But currently, Notre Dame is the only ranked team in their schedule. And they also have a bottom-heavy portion of the ACC in their schedule that they play. So I just think that the schedule is so weak that they need to win. They can only afford one loss is my genuine argument. They do need to win the ACC, but I just, like Alex said, if we're going based on history with Mario, he always finds a way to lose 3 games at Miami. He hasn't won the ACC, and until he does that, I'm not going to believe he can get it done. So that's where my prediction comes in at 10-2, losing the ACC and missing the playoff.
Gotcha. So we have the Jordan and Alec predicting Miami missed the playoffs, and we have Rolly and Derek predicting Miami wins the national title. So we'll see how the season
You guys
shakes
gotta
out.
hope for something. I mean,
we
it's all
will.
good. Let's talk.
We
Florida
got
State.
a lot of
It's-
gap between the
It's natty or
predictions,
bust.
but only
let me
time
say,
will tell.
Yeah, let me just say, I think that it is a benefit to Miami that they are playing Notre Dame on the road because they showed last year in the biggest of stages at home, they can't get it done in the Natty. So thank God that game's on the road is what I got to say about that. They might win.
When's
that
the last
game.
time Florida State won a road game? Let's just compare and contrast.
Yeah, look, we
Or
know,
the
we
last
know.
time Florida State.
When? Yeah, now.
We'll get into it. We have
The
to-
last
Yeah, we'll
time
get
Florida
into it.
State
Let's
won
get
a
right in.
national championship
You know.
or an ACC championship. We can talk about those all day.
I just like
all day
it. I
long.
just like to put it on the record real quick. 3 days ago, me and Jordan were hanging out, and Jordan said that I easily see this Miami team will go 12-0, but he sees that if they don't have an opportunity to build back, such as we did last year when we lost to Louisville and SMU at home, like they won't have that moment to actually run the table again or go on a run. It's not the same thing this year. This year is deeper.
They call that
And we have
hearsay.
every facet. Yeah, they call it.
But
call
let
it
me just
hearsay.
say, I'm not
Yeah.
predicting the Canes to be a bad team. I'm saying 10-2. I'm just saying you can't just assume that they're going to be just as good or better. I do think that the quarterback position is an upgrade, but I just think there's so much star power, and the guys that were in the system for so many years, and then some of those plug and play transfers last year obviously hit. There's no guarantee that those transfers are going to hit this year. They can. Let's have a conversation, after Miami plays its first difficult test, which is week 9 at Notre Dame. So we won't really know what Miami is until, the end of the season.
Yeah,
till about
and
December.
if I could just add,
So you're already assuming Florida State's going to be bad, Clemson's going to be bad, all of those teams. There's literally going to be absolutely 0 tests before Notre Dame.
Well, we're talking on a national scale. If you look at a lot of the contenders in the SEC and the Big Ten, they have tons of, talented contenders on their schedule. Miami and Notre
Yeah,
Dame
preseason
have the
rankings,
easiest.
Jordan. We all
I'm
know
not
that
just talking about
preseason
rankings. I'm
rankings
talking
are
about
all.
what we know the teams to be, the talent of the teams. If you put your schedule next to Texas,
Do we know anything?
Oklahoma,
Duke won the
Oregon,
ACC last year.
Indiana.
Virginia was in contention. Like, we don't know anything
By the way,
necessarily about a lot of teams just yet. We
yeah,
really
I
don't.
will say I don't necessarily disagree with what Jordan's saying. Yes, we probably shouldn't take for granted like the comeback. I mean, just look at obviously FSU after they lost that one game to Georgia, and then they brought back and won 2 games. Now, the hope is one, the people that Mario brought in will continue to move forward and like improve because trust evaluation, trust development, like everyone that's actually worked out that Mario's handpicked for the most part, they've had somewhat success. Put them in the league, whatever the case may be. And two, you just hope the culture, like whether obviously we're not in the locker room, we have no idea. But from what the media is saying, what people are saying is that since the first practice of spring, Mario's thing was we haven't done anything. Like this group of guys here didn't make it to the national championship. That was last year's group. So the hope is the culture of the school as a whole, the culture of Mario's building, the assistant coaches, all the way down to the guy doing the film and social media. The hope is that culture built is what's gonna, kind of keep it all together. That's the hope. That's what's being preached. And the other thing is we might look back like we're also projecting, because at the end of the day, this is all projections. We have no idea what's going to happen. That Justin Scott and Ahmad Moden, if all goes well, are both first round picks. Xavier Lucas or OJ Federico, one of those guys could potentially sneak into the first round. Like Darren Menta could be the number 1 pick next year. Like the upside is insane. The projections of all these guys, if they take the steps that we assume and we're hoping they take, like sky is the limit. But yes, of course, injuries, bad luck, coaching malpractice, all that stuff can still happen. The hope is the culture that's being built doesn't happen what Jordan said, which is, we just assumed we made it. We're going to be back there next year. It's like, hey, we haven't done anything. Like 1-0 every day. That's what we're hoping for. But at the end of the day, we're not in there. We're not in the locker room. We have no idea. We're hope that's the message that's being preached. And I think it is.
If I could just wrap this up, I want to tell Derek, I appreciate that was a rational take. You're able to see both sides. It's very rare sight coming from a Miami fan. So I just want to put that out there. But all we're trying to tell you guys is take it from us, your wise rival fans who have been there before, who have put together a great team with transfers at the right time, made it happen, had a great season, tried to fill those holes the following year. We went in with the same exact expectations that you guys have right now. Obviously, I'm not saying you guys are going to go 2-10, but it didn't work out the way that we thought it was. And more often than not, that's just how things go. So we'll see what happens. It's tough for me to say that the team that made the Natty last year is not as good as the team that is coming in this year, because there's just too many question marks at this point.
All right. So with that, Rolly brought out the Mike hasn't won a road game in 3 years card. So we want to now switch to Florida State. So we are going into year 7 for Mike Norvell, and every 2 years has been a new theme for Mike. Years 1 through 2, not good. But they were building years. And then after year 2, he turned the program around in year 3, 2022. They won 10 games. In year 4, they won 13 games. So years 1 and 2, not good. Years 3 and 4 were successful. And then years 5 and 6, Mike had FSU fall off the face of the planet, and 2024 and 2025 were absolute complete disasters of seasons for Florida State. So, Alec, I want to start with you. Your team name in our college pick'em league is public information now, but your team name is the Dark Mike Rises. So you are predicting Florida State to significantly exceed expectations this year. You're predicting the Noles to go 9-3, which is the same record you have predicted for Miami. And you are predicting that Mike survives to 2027. So I want to challenge you and say, look, the Noles have not won a road game since October 7th. I mean, the 2023 season. So what do you see with this team Ashton Daniels and Mike that makes you believe that Florida State can turn around and completely change the trajectory of the program this year?
Well, it's a combination of things. I'll try to piece it together for you. In my honest opinion, I believe that this team is going to be an improvement from last year's team. So we'll just start there. All of the guys that we needed to retain that were young and contributing to our team last year, we were able to do so. We have the second year of our defensive coordinator, Tony White, coming in. He has a complex defense, 3-3-5, that was his first year in practice last year. It worked at times. It kind of had some loose holes towards the end of the season, but that's another year building on that. With Tommy, I think that we could have had a better season last year. I know that he did get a little bit banged up, and he's also the kind of guy who, when things are good, he's firing up the crowd, but when things are bad, he kind of like acts up. He's a little bit of a hothead, and we got to see it on the sideline a couple times last year. Everything that I hear from Ashton, not even talking about his talent, is that he's good mind, well responsive quarterback. He's a more vocal and taking a leadership role in the locker room, different from Tommy, who just kind of went out publicly and started talking some shit. Fortunately, backed it up. But what I hear about Ashton, as far as who he is as a leader, is a lot better than what I heard about Tommy, and definitely with DJU 2 years ago. So that's the reason why I anticipate that we'll be a little bit better, if not a lot better, than we were last year. And then the reason why, now, I'm an FSU fan. The whole point of the show, fan takes, put it out there, tell them what your heart is feeling. The way I've looked at Mike's tenure at FSU is it's gone in 4-year blocks. Unfortunately, that's just the way it's rolled out. We had a really bad year 1, little bit of improvement year 2, big jump year 3. And then obviously back up to the top in year 4, reset year 5, 6, and now we're in the second round of year 3. And I anticipate that we will probably start the season off hot and win some games we might not be projected to win, maybe lose a couple in the middle. And then the difference this year is that I believe we'll be able to respond and finish the season out strong and with a more respectable record than what people are projecting of us.
Derek, I want to go to you. You're on the complete opposite end of the spectrum as Alec. You have Alec's record flipped from 9-3 to 3-9. You're predicting the Noles to have 9 losses this season, and you're predicting Mike Norvell will be fired. So my question to you, Derek, is Vegas has FSU around 5-6 wins, depending on which network you look at or outlet you look at. Some are 5.5, 6 in that range. But you have FSU being worse than people expect at 3-9. So with this, the points Alec brought up, year 2 under Tony White, you expect a natural improvement on defense. Last year there were 0 returning starters on offense, and while you did lose your whole offensive line, which is a serious issue, you still have more continuity at other positions like wide receiver and running back. So my question to you, Derek, is why do you think FSU won't take a step forward this year, but instead will be worse than people expect? And what is your absolute ceiling for this FSU team in terms of how many games they could realistically win if things go right?
Well, the main thing it comes back to, and you can roll back the film from last year, it just comes down to talent. You can argue like Ashton Daniels comes in, you can argue he's less talented than Tommy Castellanos. You have the whole new O-line this year that's arguably, I mean, you guys pretty much hit on everyone in the O-line last year, so that ended up being a solid group. But there's a good chance that's going to take a step back too. And then you have to, you lost Earl Little, who obviously Malachi and Bears at dope. But overall, his season was pretty solid. He's going to Ohio State for a reason. He's not a horrific player, obviously. And I just think that history kind of repeats itself. I know we brought up history a couple of times this year. And, Alec mentioned retaining some of those guys. Unfortunately, they do what they usually do to Mike and FSU, which is hit the portal, get a little bit more cash out of them, and then come back. We saw how that worked out with Patrick Payton and a handful of other guys a couple years ago. And unfortunately, and this is no knock at Mike, it is what it is. Like the culture, and I think this is the university from the top bottom. So not all the blame goes to Mike either. He gets most of the blame. He's the head coach, and he's getting paid, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars to basically just like babysit kids. But I just don't think the culture's there. I think the guys that they ended up retaining after they hit the portal, we might see history repeat itself where they kind of like are lackadaisical, not giving full effort. I think you have Alabama early in a couple of their tough games. Like if things don't start off hot, he's gonna lose the locker room, and it's not his fault at all. It's just a fact of like at a certain point, like that 2023 season of 13 wins is like so far away that half those guys on the team weren't even there. They have no idea that's even a thing. And in terms of like, comparing to Vegas and why people feel like, I feel like they're just kind of getting like that little FSU boost, similar how like we got for so many years with Manny Diaz and Al Golden. And every year it was like, oh, they're Miami. They have to be good. Of course, they're Miami. And then you start realizing when you start peeling back the cover, you're like, this is horrible. Like the insides are rotten. And I think it's a similar thing with FSU. So they can get off to a hot start. I think he can save his job. I would love that personally. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think it's just to a point where unless they start off 4-0, 5-0, and somehow by some miracle win a road game, like he's going to lose the locker room. I think they're just going to cut ties, even though it's going to cost them an insane amount of money. And it's gonna unfortunately be ugly for them.
I want to go to Jordan, and Jordan, you have you're a Knoll grad and huge Knoll fan, and you do not have much faith at all in this 2026 Florida State team. Your prediction, I think you were originally at 4-8, and then you increased it to 5-7. So my question to you, Jordan, is did you have faith in Mike Norvell when he was having success in 2022 and 2023? And if so, why do you think he can no longer turn the program around again like he did in years 3 and 4? And then second question is, what's your absolute ceiling for this FSU team in terms of how many games they could realistically win if all things go right?
So, your first question on Mike Norvell, of course, I was totally bought in on the Mike Norvell train because of what the trajectory of the program was at that time, and everything was pointing in the right direction. Other than we kind of brushed it under the rug that, hey, we're not really capitalizing on the recruiting like we should. We thought, oh, when you get the wins on the field, it's going to result in the high school recruiting. We know the game has since changed. Mike was very good in the portal. He was one of the first people into the portal, and that was great. The game has also drastically changed since then as well, where the portal is a lot different than it was at that time. And now my recent history of the last 2 years has concerns about Mike-led teams, and I disagree with Derek completely. I don't think it's necessarily a talent issue, because we saw it firsthand last year in that week 1 game against Alabama. That was no fluke. Everybody saw that game. There was nothing fluky about it. It wasn't Alabama fumbling and throwing interceptions and turning it over. It wasn't FSU all trick plays. It was smash mouth. FSU was more physical in the line of scrimmage on offense and on defense. They just were hitting hard on defense. They were taking shots on offense. Tommy was really active with his feet, and we saw later in the season that he wasn't able to use his feet the same. So I don't think it's a talent issue. I think it's more of a culture issue. The last 2 years, when a Mike Norvell-led team has been punched in the mouth, how do they respond? That's my biggest concern. That's my reason why I'm not on the Mike Norvell train, and why my prediction is where it is. I think that the talent on this team is better than last year's, like Alec mentioned. So that being said, and I think last year's team could have won 8 games. They lost a bunch of close games, and the culture deteriorated. So I think this team, on paper, the roster is capable of winning 8 or 9 games with an ACC schedule. But I think the combination of what Mike has proven to do on the road the last 2 years, combined with how they respond after getting punched in the mouth, combined with our schedule. Our schedule is no joke. I was looking through it. FSU plays based on the ACC rankings at the ACC kickoff, FSU plays 6 of the top 7 ranked teams that the ACC media put out there. 6 of the top 7. Miami plays 1 of the top 7, which is Clemson, which is what FSU and Miami both share. Miami plays 8 of the bottom 10 teams in the ACC. So schedule has a lot to do with it. If FSU was playing Miami's schedule, I might feel a bit more bullish on the Noles.
Those are all good takes. And then I want to get what is your absolute ceiling for this FSU team? How many games do you think they could realistically win if things go right?
Well, it's funny because Miami, I had their ceiling at 12-0 and their floor at 9-3. So very like small margins there. I think that, that we can kind of expect based on their schedule, they're not going to lose 10 games. They shouldn't. FSU, on the other hand, it's a wide margin. I have them, absolute worst case if things hit the fan 2-10, because they've done that before, and that's possible. And at the ceiling, I have them at 8-4. So that's where I ended up with the 5-7. I split it right down the middle between the 2 and 8 wins, 5-7. Looking at the schedule, I just don't trust us to win enough of those road games. But the positive is I do see us breaking the streak. 1 road win this year. That's at BC. So
the worst team in the ACC.
First road win in 3 years. That would be something to witness.
By the way, I do kind of want to say something about what Jordan said in terms of like, you have your right to your opinion of believing the team has talent, of course, obviously, but I do personally think that game against Bama says more about DeBoer and Bama than it did, as we eventually found out, about, Mike and FSU. Maybe there is some talent in there. I mean, obviously, they're in FSU for a reason. There's some talent. There's, of course. But I personally think that said more about DeBoer not getting his team ready, sleepwalking on an ACC team. And now we're seeing how, even though Bama still gets the benefit of the doubt, like Saban's still there, they're not the same Bama. Like, they're not a top SC team anymore. I think it says more about them and their culture personally and the guys they're bringing in, that a mediocre to bad FSU team in the ACC was able to do that to them, which, kudos to them. You guys won the game. I'm not going to take that
Can
away
I
from you.
follow up? Because
But I think it says more about them.
What do you think about our matchup this year? Do you feel like it's going to be similar? If you think that it's DeBoer's problem and that Mike, for some reason, has some edge over DeBoer, then you would expect a similar result this year? Or you think
No, I don't. No. I don't think Mike has an. I don't think Mike has a. He doesn't have an advantage over anyone. He sucks. I think DeBoer is just gonna actually. It's at home. Obviously, that makes a huge difference. And then he's not gonna just take FSU lightly. Like, same thing how you guys are saying about the Notre Dame game, which is a very valid point. That's the only game they care about, because they've had to wait more as week 1. Like, they've waited so long to play us again. It's going to be the same thing. Like, they're going to come in there, they're going to prove it. And especially a team that might not start getting the same benefit of the doubt that Nick Saban got. Like, that's a game that DeBoer's going to be like, we got to blow these guys out, because if we lose 2 or 3 SEC games, we got to show like, hey, look, we played FSU and beat them by 50. So I think if DeBoer actually is a good coach, which I think he's a whatever coach, I'm hoping. Actually, I don't really care. But the idea would be that he would have him ready to play. But no, he definitely does. He definitely has the advantage over Mike easily.
So Derek, you think last year they didn't take FSU seriously? This year, you think they're going to take FSU seriously because of what happened last year, and you also think that Alabama has a lot of talent on their team. So if Florida State were to have a close game, like a close loss, like let's say they lose by within 1 score, would that change your opinion and outlook on this Florida State team, or would you still think that they don't have talent and they're still going to go 3-9?
It probably wouldn't change it much, because at the end of the day, last year they beat Bama and the season was a train wreck. Unfortunately, I think the culture is an issue at FSU. I think everyone from the president of the school to the AD to the 50 GMs they have and all the people pulling strings, and is Mike in charge, this guy in charge? I think that's overall bigger issue, that regardless, if they beat Bama, they can rally behind a coach. It's impossible not to. But even if it's a close loss, I think it's just going to be like, that might just be half the players and that might be their Super Bowl. And if they lose that game, they might just call and be like, all right, man, this season's a loss. Like, either I'm going to take the year off and have another year of eligibility or whatever the case may be. But a close loss, I don't think changes too much. I think a win, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so if FSU wins or loses close, it's because the board sucks. But if they get blown out, it's because Mike sucks. We got it. Yeah,
You're paying attention. I love it.
yeah. No, I will say though about FSU's schedule, we're talking a lot about Bama, but I think that SMU game is huge. I've talked to some of you guys about it off air. The fact that FSU has a week 0 warm up game and SMU doesn't favors FSU. The fact that it's being played in Doak Campbell in prime time. Yeah.
And Kevin Jennings has been hurt.
Oh yeah. Only game on TV, primetime night game at Doak Campbell early in the season, similar to the Bama game. It wasn't a night game last year, but I do feel like it's set up spooky for SMU, where it's like if you're any talented team playing a lesser team, all those circumstances are weighing against you. So I feel like FSU has the opportunity to capitalize, and Mike Norvell led teams historically are better early in the season. So I would not be surprised in the slightest. I actually predict that FSU is going to beat SMU at home, and SMU is the rank to finish second in the ACC this year. But we'll see after that. If FSU beats SMU, that Bama game is going to make or break the season, because if you lose there, it could go off the tracks. If you win there, there's momentum.
So you already know that first SMU drive is going to be beautiful. It's going to be like an 8-play drive for a touchdown, and then Mike's going to do what Mike does, and he doesn't really know how to in-game coach, so the adjustments won't be there, and then we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah. So, Rolly, I want to get your take, but before I do that, Derek, really quick, what is your absolute ceiling for this FSU team? Like, if everything goes right with the talent that they have, what do you think could be the best possible season in terms of win-loss for them? You have them going 3-9, but like best case scenario.
Yeah, I think anywhere between like a 6-6, 7-6. I just think the schedule is tough. I know everyone is online is making fun of Miami because we have a soft schedule. We don't pick that schedule. Also, FSU's on our schedule and they suck, so that doesn't really help our case. But the schedule is tough, and I do think it's going to be maybe like a 6-6, 7-6, which I personally think would save Mike's job, because I think at a certain point now you're starting to look at like, okay, we're seeing some progress. How much do I got to pay this guy to let him go? I think it'll actually save his job if he gets any 6 wins or above. That'll save his job.
Rolly, what you have FSU going 4-8 this year. What is your absolute? Why do you have them going 4-8? And then what do you have as their absolute ceiling if things break right?
No, I think everybody's harped on it, honestly. I agree with Derek as far as the culture. I really don't think Mike has a culture in there. I also think similar points to how Jordan used against the University of Miami with our team. Like, I don't think he's ever recruited and built enough classes to actually homegrown talent. Yes, you guys have the Desir twins. You guys have Rawls. You guys have a few guys. And I agree that you kept the guys you needed to keep as far as the young stars. But at the end of the day, he hasn't had enough recruiting classes stacked upon each other to actually build that culture in that locker room. I think he has 23 to 25 transfers this year. Again, Mike specializes in that. And I understand after last year why you have to have a type of transfer class like that. But I really think the schedule goes against you guys. And, take away the SMU and Alabama game, whatever happens. I do agree with Jordan. I think that SMU game is primed nicely for Florida State. The fact that it's at Doak, the fact that it's at their second game, the Bama game obviously being on the road, but that middle of the slate for Florida State in their schedule. And like Derek said, we don't pick our schedules. Those schedules are set years in advance. So we really can't do anything about it. And the team that we field, we don't know exactly when the schedule is set, what type of team we're going to field either one of our teams. But that middle slate, I think by the end of the Miami game, for sure, if Mike hasn't lost the team by then, that would be the point I would expect him. It is going into a bye week, so I think that'll be the decision time ultimately. And at that point, new coach, new regime, or new interim coach, a team can rally or a team completely give up. And in today's college football, it tends to be that the team gives up. We saw with Penn State last year, things like that happen, and it could just go out completely off the rails. And that's why I don't really see 5 wins on this schedule, expecting it to go off the rails by the time the Miami game comes around.
So 5 wins is your ceiling?
I would say absolute ceiling, 5 wins.
Got it. All right. So now that we've talked about Miami and Florida State's outlook, our next topic is going to be the narrative on Mario Cristobal. This was actually, we all got into kind of a heated discussion this week on the text chat, talking about the narrative on Mario. And, we got to give credit where credit's due. I mentioned this earlier in the pod. This last year was his best season. He made it to the national championship game, went 13-3. He deserves a lot of credit for what he did last year. But I want to get everyone's take on the narrative, because so last year on this pod, Mark, one of our panelists, came on the podcast 2 weeks before Miami made the playoff, and he said, I think Mario does everything right except for once the ball gets kicked off. And then he said, in a vacuum, when the pressure is really on, you really just can't trust him. Bad timeout calls, bad decisions to go for on fourth down. That was Mark, a University of Miami grad, who came on and said that. Rolly, who's on today with us, said on this podcast last season, before the season, he said, I do think Mario's knock, of course, is game day decisions. It takes a long time, I think, for a fan base and for national media to forget about a blunder like Georgia Tech. And then that was what Rolly said before the season. And then on this podcast 2 weeks before making the playoffs, on November 16, 2025, Rolly came on this podcast and said, after the SMU loss, this is the first time I've ever doubted Mario Cristobal. You said, man, I'm a Columbus
receipts,
guy.
Man.
Receipts.
No, we're going to.
Stamped and everything.
So you said, I'm a Columbus guy. I'm a University of Miami guy, so obviously I want Mario to be the guy. But after this SMU loss is the first time I've ever doubted Mario. You said, I started to see cracks in the systematic nature of how Mario coaches. Yes, you can drill down to the play calling, but it's the philosophy that Mario has, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So this isn't from a Florida State fan. This is from Rolly.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's from a Florida State fan at all. It's crazy.
So basically, the narrative on Mario from the Miami fans themselves has been that he's been a great recruiter. He's been a great roster builder. But the narrative is that he's not a good game day coach. So last season in year 4, 2025, with a national championship caliber roster, he lost 2 games as a double-digit favorite. 2024, year 3, he had the number 1 offense in the country and Cam Ward, and he failed to make the playoffs. So my question, I want to go back to you, Rolly, because we started with you with this intro, is do you agree with this narrative on Mario, and what does he need to, and if so, what does he need to do to change the narrative?
I think it's kind of changed year by year when it comes to that, Christian. And actually, this is something I wanted to mention earlier. I think the longevity of the coordinators is huge in that. He has Shannon Dawson. He's been in the system, obviously, 4 years. We're going into year 2 of Heatherman. I really do believe that Mario's kind of getting to that, part of his coaching career that he does understand what his ultimate best role is, and that's recruiting, that's building the rosters, that's establishing the culture, that's establishing the standard. But on game days, when it comes to the offensive side, you let Shannon run the show, you let him kind of make the decisions. Obviously, Mario's involved in the decision. Mario's always going to be, on the mic and knowing what's happening, and the same thing on the defensive side. But I think he's had the same coordinators now, and he trusts Heatherman. Obviously, it's only Heatherman's second year, but I think we all were extremely impressed with Heatherman's system last year and his creativity on that side of the ball as well. And I do think he's come to the point that he understands that he kind of needs to take a step back on that. He's hired a game day manager, coordinator when it comes to, managing the clock as far as like always informing him how much clock is left, how many timeouts are left, always having someone on the sideline for that. So I think he's taken steps in that. And I do think the longevity of the coordinators assists him with, he doesn't have to be the guy to make the decisions. And I think he's learned from his mistakes, and it's something that has gotten better every year throughout. There were plenty of moments last year. I'm not going to timestamp the exact moment I told you that I remember, just like you went back on our videos from the podcast last year, but I do believe it's something that's improved every year. And I think that Georgia Tech blunder, moments like that, I think they sit with us just like they do on him. He's the one that ultimately made that decision and was okay with that call. And I think that's changed. And, I think that's gotten progressively better, and I don't expect that to be a major issue this year. But we got to see. We got to see.
Alec, I want to go to you. So you said in the text chat this week, nobody does less with more than Mario Cristobal. So I want to dive into that more as far as your narrative on him, and do you agree with the narrative that's out there on him about him not being a good game day coach, and what does he need to do to overcome or change that narrative?
Well, he's already begun the process. Like Rolly did say, he's been kind of taking his hands off the reins over the last couple of years, where that was a big criticism is, he needed to have control. If the team went up by a couple of scores, he locked everything down. He's done a good job at adjusting. And, obviously it showed last year. But the thing about Mario is, no, there's no such thing as a perfect coach unless you're Nick Saban. But even Nick, he had some guys around him that helped him out. But he's a phenomenal recruiter. Everybody knows. Not only recruiter and program builder, but also developer of talent. He's putting guys out into the pros. These are attractive things that you can bring people into your program and have the top brass talent. And it's not new. This isn't the first time he's had the talent. He's had talent at Oregon as well. But when it comes down to X's and O's, up basically until they go on and win that national championship, I won't be able to give up my thoughts about other coaches' ability to come in with a less talented team and out X and O Mario. We saw it absolutely in the Louisville game last year with Braum coming into their house. I was also at that game. And trick plays, whatever it took, good scheming, great defense. They were able to go in there and beat Miami in their own house. SMU game, Rhett Lashley, great offensive mind. That one was a closer call, and a couple plays kind of decided that game. So I don't get down on them too much for that one. And then obviously the Indiana game, Coach Cignetti is a seasoned vet, and he essentially went in there, got up early, and maintained control of the game for the rest of the game. Miami was able to get close and had a chance to win it at the end. Ultimately, that didn't happen, but that's my biggest criticism of Mario is his ability to get out X and O'd by other coaches that have less talented teams. But he's there to stay, and I've said this from the beginning, from when he got hired. I do think that eventually they will get there. He's going to be here for the next 10 years. The dominoes have to fall eventually, and something will give, but whether he's proven to me that he's going to be able to take what happened last year and then make that consistent moving forward. Miami fans remember a time where they were able to be a dynasty dominating for multiple years. And I just think the reality of college football has changed a lot since then, where you're not going to be seeing teams that are going to be dominating year in and year out. You just have to put together a good enough team, and hopefully you make that run. So last thing I'll say, I'm from Miami. Completely aside from being a Florida State fan and hating Miami, he's done a great job with not only building the morale in this city, and I believe that he's done that personally, but also representing the city of Miami with their football play, with their culture, the way he presents himself with the media. He's a very classy and competent guy. And that's one thing that if I had to throw you guys a couple of crumbs, I will say that as a man from Miami, I do appreciate what he's been able to do with the program.
Yeah, I'll add to that too to compliment. I'll say that Mario, very similar to the Miami politicians, just very corrupt.
Can I ask the Florida
That was a good
State
one.
That's it. That's all. That's all you
panelists,
got.
would
Wait,
you guys take Mario Cristobal as your coach right now over Mike Norvell?
I'll jump on that one. I think
I
Mario's
think what? What do you mean? I think.
I think
no
what?
Mario is
You
the
guys
hotter
paused there.
coach. Did you ask a question? Can you hear me? Mario is the hotter coach right now. But the fact of the matter is that no matter how low Mike Norvell's stock is right now, he still has accomplished more at Florida State than Mario has at Miami. And it's just a fact. The fact that he ran through a perfect 12-0 season and won the ACC, all that without their coach for their final two regular season games and ACC game, for that matter. He's already accomplished more. Mike Norvell, being the fireable coach that he is, has accomplished more than Mario Cristobal. That says a lot. Mike won the ACC in his 4th year. Mario's going into his 5th year. So even if Mario were to win the ACC this year or in the next couple of years, it's still Mike did it faster and better.
You
So
didn't answer the question, by the way.
what is the question?
If you would
You
take
said Mike's
Mario
more
Cristobal over
accomplished
Mike
because he
Norvell
won
right
an
now.
AC. Would you take Mario right now over Mike Norvell?
I mean, he has to prove it to me. He has to prove
He
it
has
to
to
me.
So it's
prove it
no
to you.
then. That's fine. Your answer can be
I'm
no.
gonna
Alright.
go ahead and
It's
say
no.
no.
I don't want Mike
Al-
and I don't want Mario.
Alec, why would you say no to Mario?
If he were to
at
come in
FSU?
and inherit this team, he would have to go and do another rebuild, like he had to do at Miami. That would take some time. I don't know if I'd be willing to wait that long. I'd rather
Like he
at
did at
least,
Oregon
I'd
as
rather
well.
at
He's done
least,
it multiple times.
I'd
But
rather at least give
Mike
the
hasn't
guy
done it.
who's proven it before a chance to prove it again, as opposed to getting a refresh. We're talking about for this year who we want to be our coach. I'd rather Mike be our coach this year. When there were questions about Mike being fired last year and who we might be able to hire to replace him, obviously it's been reported that we went behind his back to see if Lane Kiffin was interested. He ended up saying no, and that ended up being a big embarrassment for Mike. But another coach that was talked about a lot was James Franklin. James Franklin and Mario Cristobal, to me, fall into a similar basket, which is that they're great recruiters, they're great developers, they're great program builders, and they're not great on X's and O's. And when the light shines the brightest, he's fallen short. Miami fans give Mario a lot of credit for that playoff run. Obviously, it's a tough thing to do to go to the national championship. We have to remember that the A&M team at the beginning of the season went on to lose to Texas. That was probably their most impressive win in that playoff against A&M. I'll give them that. Ohio State got their absolute heart ripped out by Indiana the week before in the Big Ten championship. And we've seen that happen with teams where, especially FSU Miami games, whatever team loses that, their season falls apart. So you kind of got Ohio State in a bad mindset and off guard, and you dominated that game. Then you go on to play Ole Miss, who head coach, half of their coordinators had already left, and you guys went on and you barely squeaked by and won that game. Thank you to Carson Beck for using his legs as opposed to his arm to win that game. And then you went on and finally played your first real challenge, and it didn't work out. So let's just try to take a step back and look at the big picture here.
I'm just happy that Mario outcoached the other coach, Ryan Day, who's a national championship winning coach, outcoached him.
Ryan
And
Day's
then,
a bum.
Pete Golding, he's a new guy. We'll see.
Ryan Day's a bum now because
if Mario wins a natty, he gets the
He's
pass.
always been a bum.
Ryan Day has the pass. I agree, by the way, but I'm just
So I want to finish this topic narrative on Mario with you, Derek. Do you think Mario has done enough to overcome that narrative that's been out there on him to this point? And if not, what do you think Mario needs to do to overcome that narrative?
So I'll keep it short because obviously we've already talked plenty about this. It's a little bit of a cop out, but yes and no. Yes, I think he's already at this point proven that he can win big games. The last 2 years, the biggest games on the schedule. When it was Cam Ward, the biggest game on the schedule was Florida to start the year. went in there and dominated them. This last year, Notre Dame, Florida, and obviously the playoff run, we did what we had to do outside of the last game. But obviously, you can't ignore the fact that he still dropped the ones that he probably shouldn't drop. Now, I'm hoping this year, I think at the bare minimum, if he wins the ACC and like doesn't drop those dumb games, I think we're good. At the end of the day, winning, not every coach can win a national championship. Plenty of amazing coaches have never won a national championship. I think he will. I really hope he does, but I don't think he necessarily needs to win one to us to be like, okay, now we accept him. Like, no, that's kind of, it's a little outlandish. But I do think that until he proves that he doesn't drop the ones that he shouldn't, yes, of course, you can always say something. But for whatever reason, after SMU lost, it really felt like something clicked. Dude, Pitt in the cold, that's when was the last time we won that game? Like, he actually did win some of the ones that you like at BNC, you're like, oh yeah, that Pitt game, like that game, those ones gonna lose. So for whatever reason, something clicked. It went into the playoffs, and we kind of had that run. I'm hoping whatever he internally changed by himself, whether it's giving up more control, whether it's telling Dawson, like, hey, open it up, run more Mally Cat, whatever the case would be. I don't know. I'm not in that room. I'm hoping, though, whatever clicked after SMU remains, and it shows us up this year. And, you know, hopefully we're holding it up at the end, or at the bare minimum, like winning the ACC and making a run in the playoffs. Like, you know, that I think that winning the ACC alone squashes the narrative, because that means you won the games that you're supposed to win.
Gotcha. So if he doesn't have those slip ups, then we could say he's overcome this narrative about him where he, you know, him as a game day coach, him as a double digit favorite, things like that. But Derek, I want to stick with you after the way last season finished. This is a big topic every year. Do you consider the U to be back? And if not, how do you define what the U being back is to you?
So in terms of if we're back to what we were when we've gone through our dynasties, no, that requires winning a national championship. Where I do think we're back is on a national presence, brand exposure. I mean, yes, these guys aren't playing this year, but nope, Nick Lanier, Amir Sears, like those guys go to Bama, they go to Ohio State, like the Jeremiah Smith, all those guys. Like, this is now, everyone kept saying, we see Miami win, we'll come. We went on a run, we won. The Miami guys are now starting to come. So in terms of being a national brand, in terms of actually, you know, getting that Vegas boost of, oh, they're Miami, of course you're gonna be like, that's a little bit more justified now. Like, in terms of us getting the benefit of doubt, God forbid we lose a game or two, that benefit of doubt that Bama gets, that we thought Notre Dame was going to get last year. Like, okay, these guys are serious. Like, we're going to put them in because we still think they're the top 12 team in the nation. So in terms of being back as like a dynasty, obviously not. We got to win it, and it's got to be a little bit more, obviously, longer success. But in terms of being back as a national brand, 100%, I think we're back.
And I want to continue on, but with the other panelists, but instead of long form, I want to switch it to rapid fire, like 2-3 sentences. So, Jordan, after last season, is the U back, and how would you define what the U being back is?
I would say no, and I'm not going to say it necessarily has to be a national championship, but it needs to be multiple years in a row of being a conference champion and being a playoff and being in the playoff. I think if Mario were to win if everybody goes into each year expecting Mario's going to win the ACC and the Canes are going to be in the playoff and have a shot at the national championship, I'd say the U's back. Like, you do that 3 years in a row, I'm like, that is what we're talking about. You're relevant every single year. But you know, one amazing run where things fell the right way and balls bounced the right way. You know, I'm not going to take that away from them, you know, give credit for that, but I need to see some continuity. I need to see a couple of years of, I need to see at least 1 year of winning the conference, which is the third or fourth best conference, depending on who you ask, before we even have this conversation. But yeah, win the ACC one time, then a few times, playoffs, multiple years, the U can be back.
Rolly, after last season, is the U back, and how would you define the U being back?
I agree with everything Derek said. As far as being a national prominence, the brand, the guy staying home, getting those recruits. I really think Jordan harps a lot on the ACC, but we already showed We didn't even have to make the game, and we made a national championship run. And I understand, we had the head-to-head win Notre Dame. We were let in. We went on the run, of course. Competing for championships, competing for national championships. If he wants to throw in conference championships, that's fine. But the reality is this is a 12-team playoff now. So the landscape of college football has changed. And the reality is there were 5 SEC teams, for example. I know the SEC gets the benefit of the doubt, but we didn't make the game, and we made it because we were looked at as ultimately a top 12 team in the country, and we had a head-to-head win over Notre Dame, and those situations can happen. So I'm not going to say specifically that we have to win and could be competing. We have to be competing for sure for conference championships, don't get me wrong, but we don't not necessarily have to win it competing for national championships, making deep playoff runs, having consistent recruiting classes, having consistent top 10 win seasons. I believe, we're not there yet. I think we'll be there in the next couple of years.
So if they don't win the conference, the U could still be back, is what you're saying.
I think if we win a national championship without winning the conference this year, but yes, I do see this year, I do believe we should win the conference 100%, and we should be competing for a national championship and making a deep playoff run this year.
Is this year a failure if they don't win the ACC?
Are they in the playoff?
Well, that's my next question. That's my next question.
Let's say they go
11
11-1, right? Let's say they go 11-1. The one loss is against Clemson. Okay. And
It's
let's
not
say
gonna be
there's another
Clemson.
ACC
Clemson,
team.
you guys are going to beat
Okay,
Clemson.
maybe not, whatever. But anybody, whatever. Let's say
It's a hypothetical. We
it's a
lost to
hypothetical.
FSU. Whatever.
Yeah,
It'll never
yeah,
happen. But let's just
whatever.
say,
I don't care.
let's
It's
dream.
not going to be FSU because FSU has multiple ACC losses in there. But let's say the one loss is against a team that they don't have another loss, or they have one other loss, and then they have tiebreaker over us. And then there's another team that doesn't have to face us or doesn't have to face the other 6 top ACC teams, whatever Jordan was saying earlier, and they go undefeated, and it's a tiebreaker situation like last year. We don't make the game, but we have one loss, including a win against Notre Dame. We're probably in the playoff. Can you guys not agree?
Yeah, but there's no scenario where they don't make the ACC championship game with one loss.
Maybe
I,
not.
like last
We've
year,
seen
I don't
weirder
think you
things.
realize.
Last year,
I don't think
mean,
you
the rules
realize
changed,
how
so it shouldn't
fluky.
happen again.
I don't think
It
you
was
realize
so
how
fluky.
fluky it was last year. The fact
But
that
we're just saying
after that SMU
hypotheticals, Jordan,
game,
it could happen.
you and everybody else had ruled Miami out. You're like, there it goes, playoffs, we're done. And then thankfully they did dominate the rest of the way, and thankfully nobody else went and claimed that spot. Other teams fell out and it allowed Miami to sneak in with the last spot. But like that was very fluky to basically where your season is over, not make the ACC championship. You can't count on that every year.
I just don't see it like being ACC championship or we don't make the playoff like you do. And I think that you harp on that. And I really do think now, because it's a 12-team playoff, because there's at-large bids, because we're in the ACC, a lower tier conference, I almost don't think it's like... we've already shown that it's not necessary.
If you want to make the playoff the next 5 seasons in a row,
yes, the easiest route is winning your conference championship.
How many of those 5? Like, how many realistic scenarios are there where you make it without winning the ACC? Like, you're going to be winning the ACC on your way to the playoff.
We should be, yeah, we should be.
So if you can't win this measly conference, what does it say about Mario? Like this year, if they don't win the conference, I think it's a failure. Like. It was a failure last year, but they overcame it.
We're gonna win the conference, so it's not gonna be an argument this year, like I said. But I think you're harping too much constantly on the conference championships, which I think has changed completely with a 12-team playoff now. That's all I'm saying. I think if we are consistent 10-win seasons, consistently competing for playoff spots, consistently making 1 or 2 playoff runs, consistently playing for a national championship every couple of years. Obviously, college football has changed. It's hard to win 4 games against top 10 teams now, but there's only 4 teams that have done that so far. It's only the year 3 of the 12-team playoff. I think if we're constantly competing, constantly putting together 10-win seasons, I think we can confidently say that the U is back in today's day and age of college football.
Okay. So I want to move on to this season because we talked about the U being back.
I'm just going to jump in here.
Alec, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
One note I just want to add in, and I'm about 90% sure of this, but I believe that the rules have now changed once again with the playoffs.
It's modified.
You need to, if you win your conference, you're in. Whereas last year was the only year in CFP history where they changed the rule. They realized that maybe that's not the best way to do it. And then they've now changed it back this year. So it's even more important to win the conference now. I won't say much about the U being back. I think honestly, this is the first topic that everybody in the panel agrees on. That in order to be back, unfortunately, back to where they were when they were great, they were winning national championships. So you have to win a national championship. So is the U back right now? No, it's better to say the U is much better, much better than they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But yeah, couldn't agree with Derek more about the branding. I mean, with the picture of last season still fresh in everybody's mind, Miami is still very hot, and you're going to have to follow through with that and keep that consistent this year for that to continue. But yeah, we definitely were able to put Miami in the national spotlight again. So from that aspect, that's similar to where they used to be. But they're much better. They're not yet back. They have to win a natty to be back because that's what the standard is at the University of Miami.
Alec, I want to stay with you. So for Florida State this season, what do you think would be the definition of a successful season for Florida State? Do they need to win 7? Do they need to win 8 for it to be a success? What's your definition of success for the Noles this year?
I think you have to win 8, and you have to win some of your big games. You have to beat your rivals if you can, at least one of them. That's been a problem for us the last couple of years. If we go 8-4 and our losses are to shit teams, but we beat the good teams, that's going to hurt. That's going to not be a good look on Mike, but it's going to be an improvement. When I made my prediction of 9-3, I never got the question about what my ceiling is, but my ceiling is 9-3 for this team. So that's what I'm just going with my gut and chasing my dreams, and believing that we'll be able to accomplish that if we make the right moves where we need to. But I don't see us being able to make a playoff run this year. If we did, I would be very surprised, and obviously delighted. But I would say 8 is a safe number there.
Jordan, do you agree that 8 is the definition of success? Or if not, what do you think the definition of success is for the Noles this year?
Yeah, I think 8 because, I mean, if your only losses are to Bama, SMU, Clemson, UF, I mean, that's 4 there. If you, maybe, we could put Miami as a toss-up game, but 8 wins, I think it's a success for sure.
All right. So, Derek, for Miami this season, what do you think is the definition of success? So last year, majority of Miami fans said the definition of success going into the year was you got to make the playoffs. Last year, they hit that and they made a deep playoff run. So they definitely had a successful season, exceeded expectations. This year, what do you define as a successful season? Is it winning the ACC? Is it making the playoff? Is it making a deep playoff run? Is it getting back to the national championship? What do you define as success? And when I say that, I mean, if they don't hit this, then you look at it as a failure of a season.
Yeah, I got you. I'll keep it short. Winning the ACC and making a run. And I think that's, the ACC I think is important. Yeah, winning the ACC is huge for narrative to, close another door on that. And at the bare minimum, making a sort of run. I'm not going to say, yes, obviously national championship or bust, but winning a national championship is extremely hard. Like, not a lot of people do it. So to tell you that the only way it's successful to win a national championship is just a little it's not very realistic. But I think they got to make the playoffs and win a game at the bare minimum.
Okay.
Where I won't think it'll be a failure.
So ACC championship and then first round exit from playoff, would that be a failure?
Yes, it would. Okay. Because I think if we're winning the ACC and with 1 or no losses, we're gonna be a top 5 team in that bracket. So to not even win a game, what we're assuming is a lesser team than ours, would be a huge failure. Yes, if assuming we run the ACC, everyone stays healthy and everything is systems going, we should at the bare minimum win at least 1 game. Idea if we're losing the next game, at least make it competitive, not like a blowout. But if we don't win the ACC, I think it's a huge failure. because I don't think we get into the playoffs.
Rolly, what's your definition of success where they have to meet this to be considered a successful season? If they don't hit it, it's a failure of a season.
I think this year in particular, with the way the schedule plays out, winning the ACC and a deeper run. I want to say semifinals. I think before semifinals, I would be upset. Honestly,
I think if you had asked Rolly first, he should have said Natty.
yeah, no, I was leaning towards national championship appearance or semi, but I'm gonna stick to semifinal. I want to be one of the final four at minimum, but at that point,
Well, we win the ACC.
what-
we're most likely gonna be a
you're
top 4 seed.
quarterfinal. You should be
Like there's not gonna be
quarterfinal
4
to
teams.
start.
So we win a game and
so
then
you
we're in the
should be
semi. Like that's the way I saw it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we should be a top
yeah.
4 seed. Like
Yeah.
no, the chances of 4 other teams being undefeated in front of us is like extremely
It's
unlikely.
slim. Yeah.
Like they're not an 11-1 ACC championship. Miami is not gonna get moved. Like that's where the benefit of doubt not starts getting in. Of like we made the run, we have the talent, we've shown something. Like they're not gonna put a 2-loss SEC team above us, or even like a Big 12. Like if Texas Tech has a loss, like they're not gonna be above us. They have even an easier schedule. So
I agree.
Gotcha. So we're going to move into the last segment of the show, the rapid fire segment. And for this segment, it's going to be 1 or 2 word answers for every question. And for one question out of the rapid fire, you can decide that for this question, you want to expand on 1 or 2 words and you can give your answer for. But once you use that card, it's out. So you have to go back to 1 or 2 words. So,
I like it.
Damn, you got to save it a little bit, potentially.
Yeah, you might have to save it. So, so first question, a lot of FSU fans expected a bigger splash at quarterback in the portal this past offseason. Ashton Daniels was the choice for Mike Norvell. So Daniels has had a history of turnovers, not winning games. In 23 career starts, his win-loss record is 5-18. So we'll start with you, Jordan. Again, 1 or 2 word answer, unless you want to use your time card. But how will Ashton Daniels be remembered after his 1 season in Tallahassee?
Okay.
Alec?
Better than expected.
That's 3 words.
Come on, three's not bad. Three's not bad.
I thought
No,
like
hey, you're not.
okay, it's
come
a
back to that
phrase.
thing.
Hold
That's
on,
it.
let me think about this.
All right, you use your card. You
have to think about it. You have to think about it.
No, I think 3 words.
You
is
could
good.
say
3 words.
okay,
is fine.
fine. We'll make 3 words.
We'll edit it. We'll edit out the word in the middle. Don't worry.
Ready? Above average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we gotta think. All right, Derek, Ashton Daniels, how will he be remembered?
Won't be.
won't be remembered. Wow. And
That's
then
2
Rolly.
words.
Forgettable.
Oh, 1 word.
Wow. Okay.
That's efficient.
All right, next question. Per On3, Daria Mensah is the highest paid NIL player in college football this season at $6.5 million. The next highest paid player in the sport is Dante Moore at $5 million. So there's sky high expectations for Mensah. And he's transitioning from the spread offense where he was in the spread at Duke and Tulane to now going to the air raid offense. So my question is, rapid fire, how will Daria Mensah be remembered after his 1 season in Coral Gables? Rolly.
Heisman.
Derek.
First round.
Jordan.
Stud.
Okay. Alec.
With a smirk.
Wasted talent.
Thanks to Mario.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah, the quarterback killer. That's right.
All right. Staying with you, Alec. Biggest perceived strength of your team, Florida State, and biggest perceived weakness of Florida State. You don't have to do. You could do 2 separate answers for that. 1 word, 2 words for each.
Offense, run game, defense. Like I don't understand.
So like the biggest strength of the team is one or two words, and then the biggest weakness of the team, your perceived weakness, one or two
I
words.
thought we were saying offense, defense. Okay. Weakness, leadership, strength, returning talent.
Jordan.
Yeah, the two
That's
words
hard
is
to answer. I
tough.
feel like
Tough.
that's
It's
hard
tough.
to answer.
I'll say strength. I'll say deuce. Proven. Deuce equal proven. And then weakness. Weakness. I'm gonna say it's hard to find one. I think
It's hard to find one. It's hard to describe it in one word. It's probably the better.
I'm gonna say grit.
Okay. We
This one's rough.
we gritting. All right, so Derek,
We was gritting.
biggest perceived strength in your opinion of Miami Hurricanes, one or two words, and then biggest perceived weakness, one or two words for Miami Hurricanes.
For strength, I'll say overall culture. And for weakness, I'll just say timeouts.
Well done.
Broly?
Culture or
Isn't that what he said?
Just say Maui.
yeah, I know. I didn't want to say the
you
same
can't-
thing.
you
I'll say
can't
the
use the same
standard.
word.
How about the
You have to-
standard? I'll say the
Okay.
standard.
What's
For strength.
standard?
You're just such a hater. It's hard to find a strength for Florida State. I was here thinking about Florida State the entire time,
He's
and I
pulling his
couldn't think of
card.
anything.
He's pulling his
And I'm
card.
not saying the
Yeah, but you baited him.
card.
You baited him. You baited him
Yeah,
into the
like,
card.
get
That's
the hell
a
outta
red
here.
card. It's a penalty.
Weakness. Replacements.
Mario. Oh,
Okay. So 1 to 2 word answer. This is everyone's gonna answer this one. Why did Mike have the FSU program fall off a cliff over the past 2 seasons? Alec.
Snub.
Snub, okay. Jordan?
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to play my card. I'm going to play my extension card.
Okay.
oh, nice.
It wasn't the snub is not the reason. I explained this. You can't blame our failures on things that we can't control. So the snub is not the reason. The way that we reacted to the snub has led us down this path. So when I talk about leadership being a weakness, I think that has been the clear major flaw of Norvell over the last 2 years is inability to respond properly to adversity. So to expand on snub, I would just say the way we reacted to the snub.
Okay. Jordan, 1 to 2 words. Why did Mike have FSU program fall off a cliff the last 2 seasons?
Player leadership.
Derek, why did same question.
Jordan Travis.
Okay, Jordan, I'll take that as Jordan Travis graduating, and then Rolly.
Portal dependent.
Okay.
Like Mario.
That's
So
completely
Easy card.
different.
staying with you, Rolly. 1 to 2 word answer. Why did Miami not win the national title last year?
Alex Bauman.
Was that the guy that didn't block the block punt guy for Indiana?
Yeah.
Okay. Derek, and it can't be the same answer. It has to be a different answer.
Yeah, it's okay. Overall depth.
Oh, really? I'm surprised by that. Jordan, why did Miami not win the Natty last year? 1 or 2 words.
Try to leave something for Alec to pick. I mean, I'll pull my flag here.
Okay.
like Carson Beck isn't enough. Like I need to expound on that. Like throughout the entire season, I gotta give Mario credit because he put together a very talented team led by Bain on the defense and Maui Noah on the offense. Uh, those guys leading by example. The team was deep. Carson Beck did not need to do very much all season, and he really never was asked to do very much at all other than protect the ball. He's an elite game manager, dinking and dunking. Like, I mean, if I had Maui and I was quarterback and I had Maui Noah blocking for me, I'd probably throw for 3,000 yards just by screen passes, bubble screens. So Carson Beck, when he wasn't asked to do much, elite at that, at not having to do much. But the second that he tried to like put the game in his hands, try to make a play, that's what it came down to. I don't know if I blame Carson Beck for going rogue or Shannon Dawson for calling that play or just Mario for allowing he's the head of the snake and allowing for either Dawson or Beck to allow Beck to try to put the game in his hands. But that's why they don't have the national championship, unfortunately. Stammen, I have another answer too, but hopefully Alec can get it because.
Well, you use your card, so you can keep going if you want.
Yeah, that's right. More than one word. I'll say also just whiffing on Mendoza.
I was going to say you can expand, but you can only say one thing. You can't like expand into multiple.
He responded
things.
once. It was one answer. He expanded on the one answer, Christian.
Well, whatever. I'll just say whiffing on Mendoza, like because if he had brought in Mendoza, obviously.
Let's cut this part out. Right, let's cut that out because like I got nothing else to say. Like you covered everything. All right.
Okay. I'll say. Well, because he had the long-winded one. You could just say whatever. What do you think is the main reason that Miami did not win the national title?
He said Beck. That's the clear answer. So my two words are Signetti and Mendoza. Those are the two words.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So. Speaking of Mendoza, Alec, one or two words. Is Mario's biggest regret as Miami's head coach not prioritizing Cuban, South Florida, Columbus grad?
I knew it was coming. It was gonna come at some point.
Is that his biggest regret as Miami head coach? One or two words.
No.
Okay. All right.
So what? I played my cards.
You can't expand them. I played my cards
already. Okay. Go ahead, Jordan.
Georgia Tech.
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so we need it. All right, Rolly, is that Mario's biggest regret as Miami head coach?
No. And I'm not playing the card to expand on this.
Okay. Derek.
No.
Okay. All right. One word answer for you, Derek, is will Mike regret paying big money for Texas running back transfer Trey Wisner as the 5th highest paid player on the team? Reports at a training camp, or is that he's probably going to be 3rd string? Chroma's going to be the running back 1. Sam Singleton probably running back 2 and 3 will rotate. But will Mike regret paying big bucks for a running back when he should have gone out and gotten another lineman?
No. I was considering using my card, but no. Just no. He won't.
Okay, he will not regret it. Okay, so Jordan.
Will he regret it is the question?
Yeah.
No.
Alec?
Yes.
Rolly?
I'll say yes.
Okay.
I'll let the comment sections ask why.
I don't think it would have mattered.
Maybe I'll expand in the comments.
Yeah.
Why my answer was
Can I
no.
say yes plus injuries? 2 words. Injury prone?
Right.
No. Injury prone?
No. Depth.
Okay.
Didn't have that anyways.
Yes, there is no depth. Correct. There is no depth.
Correct. He hasn't recruited in 7 years.
So, is there going to be one or two words for Mandrell Desir and Malachi Tony? Will there be a sophomore slump for each player? So, Jordan, address both Mandrell Desir and Malachi Tony, sophomore slump.
No. Either for none. No.
Okay. Derek?
No.
No for both?
It's hard not to expand on this.
Pull your card.
Pull your
For
card.
okay, Malachi, no.
But he put
Desir,
Densa in there. That's why he doesn't want to expand on it. Like
for Desir,
this.
not comparable.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
my
Okay.
word.
So he didn't
That's
use his
fair.
card. He didn't use his card.
Rolly?
I don't want
Not
to use the card. No.
I would love to explain, but I
Yeah,
can't.
I would
That'd
love
be
to
the
explain
rules.
the
How
Mali
many
part.
questions do we have left? Maybe I will use my card. We have like one more question left.
No, we have let's see, five more questions, I think.
Okay, I'll save it. And we'll
Okay.
talk about it later.
All right. Next one is, I think the Miami fans are going to like this one, talking about Tommy Castellanos. So,
What?
we'll start with you. All four of you guys are going to answer this. How will Tommy Castellanos be remembered as a Florida State Seminole? And that's the first question. You get one or two words for that. The second question is, what scale of 1 to 10, how much blame does Tommy deserve for FSU having a failure of a season last season?
It's hard to answer with one or two words.
For both questions, each question you get one or two words. So
how
first
will
question,
he be remembered?
how is he remembered? Second question, scale of 1 to 10, how much blame does he get?
All right, remembered. I'll say dinged up, and then how much of a factor was he in our
1 to 10
failures?
1 to 10 blame for the failure of a season.
Injuries, you know.
No, you have
4.
to say like a number 1 through 10.
Yeah, I'll say 5.
5. Okay. Alec?
Shit talker. And I'll say 6. 6.5.
Derek?
Alabama, and like a 3, maybe a 2.
Rolly?
Erratic, and I'd say a 3. Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
he's sole blame at all. Sorry.
Don't use the card.
Don't use the card.
All right. So we talked about Tommy. We closed the book on Tommy. Now we're going to close the book on Carson Beck. So first question, how will Carson Beck be remembered as a Miami Hurricane? And then second question, scale of 1 to 10, how much blame does Carson Beck deserve for Miami not winning the national title last year? So we'll start with you, Rolly.
Ole Miss. I'm always going to remember that. I'll expand on this one a little bit. All right.
Okay.
We do not get into that game without Carson Beck. Yeah, you guys just said he's the best game. He's a fantastic game manager. He's fantastic at operating a 2-3 minute offense. And that's exactly what we needed in that moment. That drive was perfect. You know, there was a big 3rd and 10 to Keelan. There were plenty of moments. Obviously, he read it right with the play at the end with his legs. Yeah. You know, FSU fans, rival fans, you know, hurt fans that hate on Carson Beck from the start when we picked him as our quarterback are always going to remember the throw. You know, logical and objective fans a little bit are going to remember that he's coming off an injury. You know, now we're getting the benefit to see him in training camp or Arizona. He made the same exact throw last week, the same exact throw. Okay, his arm was coming off an injury. He did what he could. He was serviceable. He was a great game manager. And he had a lot of moments where if he wasn't the guy, I don't know how we would have looked necessarily as far as managing the clock, converting sticks, making the right play at the right moment. So I'll always remember Carson Beck running into that touchdown against Ole Miss and sending us home for a national championship appearance.
So as far as how he'll be remembered, you think very highly.
Yeah, I don't think Cam Ward highly necessarily, but I do think highly overall.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And then scale of 1 to 10, how much blame does he deserve for Miami not winning the national title last season?
Can I expand on this part a little bit, slightly, not as much expansion? Indiana was a
this is a
fantastic football
two-parter,
team,
so
and
yes, you can.
Indiana was a fantastic football team, a well-coached, sound football team. There was extenuating circumstances like Xavier Lucas being suspended for the first half, but I will give it to Indiana 100%. They outplayed us, especially in that first half. The trenches looked scary, the DBs looked scary. I think the throw is obviously what everybody will remember, but I don't think Carson Beck is worthy of 40% of the blame necessarily either.
How many blue chip players did
So
Indiana
1
have
to 10.
compared to Miami in that game?
I don't know. Just look it up to
But
argue purposes.
wait. But
No,
1 to
but you
10,
said
Rolly, scale of 1 to 10, how
I would
much
say
blame
4
does
then.
Carson
I
Beck
would say
deserve?
40%, so 4.
Okay. All right. Derek, want to get your take on the two questions.
National championship. And then for number, I would say a 6.
Okay. Higher than Rolly. Jordan, first question, how will Beck be remembered as a Cane? Second, 1 to 10, how much blame does he have for not winning the Natty?
Say overpaid. And then 8.
Alec?
Checkdowns. And I'm also going to say 8.
Okay. All right. And then this is the last question. It's another two-part question for rapid fire. So we'll stick with you, Alec. It's for Mike Norvell's outlook. Question 1, is Mike Norvell Florida State's head coach in 2027? And second question is, what do you personally want to see happen to Mike? Regardless of what you put your money on, but you personally, what do you want to see happen to Mike? Like for example, like I think he gets fired, but I want him to work out,
But
or
I
I
only
don't
get
want
2
him gone, but I
words.
think
How
he
am I
gets.
going to?
All right, for this one, we could do one sentence for each.
Okay, so the first question is, what do I think happens with Mike? Is he our coach next year? I say yes.
Yeah.
And what do I hope
Okay.
happens with Mike? I genuinely hope that it works out and that we don't have to make another coaching change.
Okay. Jordan?
Yes, he will be our head coach because until the administration proves that they're going to fire him, I'll wait and see. And what do I want to happen? I would like to see him get fired because I don't see things drastically improving in the next 3 years. So I'd rather start the clock on the next coach.
Okay. Rolly?
Hopefully. And I would like to see him get extended.
So it's yes or no for the first question. Is Mike Norvell the head coach next year?
I said hopefully,
Is
yes.
the first question.
No, yes or no?
but yes
I
or
said
no
hopefully,
prediction.
yes. Yes. He is the
hopefully,
coach
yes.
next
So
year.
yes,
Rolly,
yes.
Rolly
You're
wasn't good at school. He
predicting
wouldn't pay
yes
attention.
that he will be the coach.
So
So you're predicting yes. He will
Well,
be
you
the
gave
coach.
the
Miami
Florida State fans
education.
a sentence each, so hopefully he is the coach,
Bet
and
your
I hope
life
he gets
savings
extended.
on it. You're betting your life
Yes, he
savings
is the
on
coach.
it. Yes? Okay.
Yes,
So
he's the
yes,
coach
he's the
next year.
coach, and yes, that would make you very happy for him to come back.
100%.
Derek, we'll finish with you. Is Mike the head coach next year, and what do you personally want to happen with Mike from your personal perspective?
So I might as well just use my card here since I haven't used it. Do I think he's going to be the head coach next year? Yes, I 100% do. What I personally hope for, I would personally hope that he does stay. I think the reason why he would stay, by the way, I think he's still going to stay despite whatever happens this year. I think at the end of the day,
Why?
I'm getting to it. Don't worry. Again, at the end of the day, you guys are living through what we just lived through for the last 20 years, which is essentially a school and from top to bottom that doesn't take its football program serious anymore. I think the football people in charge of football are simply just holding out until the Big Ten comes and saves FSU. And we don't know when it's going to happen. And they're not going to pony up the money to buy him out because they understand that not only is it expensive to do the buyout, but I got to pay a new coach. You're assuming you're going to fire all the staff, and I got to pay all new staff. Then you're going to lose a bunch of players. You got to bring in a bunch of transfers. Like the amount of money that it's going to cost, I don't think it's worth the squeeze for FSU as a whole. I truly believe they're just going to wait until the Big Ten comes calling and hope something changes. But even when that does happen, until there's some top to bottom internal changes from who's involved and who's running that show, I don't truly think. I think you'll have like little moments like how we had with Richt or how we had with the turnover chain. There'll be some glimpses. But overall, until the university takes a big change in their stance and how they feel about the program and the seriousness they're taking into it, and they're willing to pony up the money, I think he's just going to stay there. So he might stay there for his whole contract. Who knows? Until the buyout makes sense.
And what do you personally want to happen with Mike?
Honestly, he seems like a nice enough guy. I hope he gets fired and just gets like $50 million and just like plays golf for the rest of his life. Like, why not?
No,
I have no hard feelings.
I mean, from a Miami perspective, like,
I hope he stays forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he stays forever. He's never going to recruit South Florida on a serious level. He'll find a couple gems here and there because there's a lot of talent down here, but he's never going to be a recruiting threat at any level ever. So that's like at the end of the day, what it all matters now and moving forward is the talent you're bringing in, especially this NIL era. So yeah, I hope he stays forever, but he probably won't. But I hope he does.
Okay. And then I'm just adding one last thing. It's just predictions for the first big game for each program. FSU, SMU, and then Miami on the road at Clemson. So we'll start with you, Derek.
You want me to do both? Like at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think FSU is going to lose week 1 against Clemson and SMU in a close one. It'll be like a 21 to like 17, 21-14 type game. I think, sorry, too many words. And I think Miami will beat Clemson and it'll be like a statement game for the season.
By like how many scores if you were to predict at this point?
2 touchdowns, 2 scores.
2 touchdowns. Okay. Jordan, what's your take?
My prediction had FSU beating SMU because it sets up nicely for FSU, not because they're a better team, but just because of the schedule. And for Miami, I have them going 10-2 with their 2 losses being at Clemson and at Notre Dame. Not because Clemson's better than Miami, but just because of the environment and, it's hard to win football games on the road. So I have the Canes losing.
Rolly?
I think SMU goes into Doak and beats them 31-24. And for us at Clemson, I do agree it's going to be that first statement type game. I think we win 38-21.
Alec?
Can I just clarify? Before Clemson, do you guys play what other ACC games, or is that like the first ACC?
It's at Stanford is the first game.
And Wake Forest on the road.
At Stanford, then FAM at home, then at Wake Forest, then Central Michigan, then at Clemson.
Okay, yeah, that's a dub. Again, when Miami was not very good, they played Clemson, a team that was probably better than what they have now. I don't even know who the Clemson's quarterback is this year. That's some random guy that I've never heard of. So I think you guys are going to win that convincingly. I'm actually going to pick the Noles to beat SMU. I'm a little bit skeptical. I think it would be a close win, maybe a 3-point or 4-point win. But I'm just going to go ahead and extend that to we're also going to go into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama again.
Really? And like a close win?
Yeah. I don't the crowd probably helped us out in the fourth quarter last year to kind of extend our lead, but you know, so it'll be a little bit closer. But I think we proved last year that we could beat this team, and I think we're better than we were last year. So I expect that we'll go in there and win again.
All right. Well, that wraps up the pod. Went pretty long, but again, there's so much to talk about going into the season, a lot to address. We certainly hit on a lot of topics today. So thank you guys for joining tonight, and look forward to another great season of college football ahead.
Thank you,
All
boys.
right, let's get it.
Go
Go Canes,
Noles.
baby.
Hey,
Okay. Thanks,
most
Christian.
wonderful time of the year.
All right, guys. See ya.